Joe, Joe Topham,
No.
and Glenna is here as well.
I'm here too.
Oh, Kathy, I apologize. Okay, the first application that we're going to deal with is the hospital, and so we've circulated an agenda. I would like to call the meeting to order and get the approval of the agenda that was circulated. Is there a motion to that effect?
Ken,
Second.
Okay.
You're still fading in and out, Ken. I don't know. You on a headset over there?
No. All those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
No, we have to go through the roll call.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Neville,
yeah,
Diane,
Not here.
Tom,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Mark,
aye,
Tim,
aye,
Eleanor,
Aye.
Joe,
Not here.
not here, and chair votes aye. Okay, the first item then for consideration is the hospital thrift shop, preservation. The contact person is Pam Lundbach, president of the board. And if you would like to just have a brief summary of your request.
Alrighty. Let me also, Mary Casey, our executive director, is also on.
Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. Thank
Hey,
you
Mary.
all. Thank you all.
Thank you all. So we're seeking a grant from the CPC. Remember, this is my first time doing this, so let me just qualify that. We're seeking a grant from the CPC for $21,000 to help preserve our building, the exterior and the interior, excuse me, and stabilization to continue the work that you guys have graciously have helped us with since 2015. We need to continue the repair of the rubble foundation. The window frames on the second floor, the east side, they need to be pulled and restored to prevent water damage. Bulkhead to the basement stones replaced and helped because of water leakage. Inside rubble foundation resurfaced with lime wash for preservation as well. Walls in the ceiling on the second floor scraped and treated with mineral paint. That works well with the plaster that already exists in the building. West side rubble foundation repaired from inside. The weak spots in the floor in the front room shored up and restored. The floors in ladies' sorting room on the second floor need to be restored. Ceiling in the attic restored. And we've never had work ever done in the attic. So nothing's ever been done in the building is from the beginning. Tin ceiling in the restroom also needs restoration. And this work will allow us to have safe public access to all our customers, donors, and volunteers. And we provide a valuable service for the entire community. And we're a good neighbor and a supporting member of the historic downtown. And this summer, which I think is really cool, we were featured and showcased with the Nantucket Preservation Trust. They also had us on. Is that sufficient or is there more?
it's okay for me.
Okay.
Are there questions from any of the committee relative to the brief presentation? Hearing none, we will then move forward with respect to the second request that we have today.
Mr. Chairman, note that Joe Topham just got in.
Okay, noted. I would like to thank you very much for your time and presentation, and we'll be able to get back to you after the committee's had an opportunity to consider all the requests and come to its determinations.
We'd like to thank you as well. Thank you so much for allowing us to present this to you and for helping us keep our building as wonderful as it is. The opportunity. Thank you.
Yes.
Mary?
I would also like to thank you all. And I hear every day as people walk in and out of the thrift shop, they ooh and ah at our beautiful refinished floors in the hallway that greet them. So that's been a wonderful change this season. And again, we thank you. And Pam and I look forward to continuing our work with the CPC. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Any questions from any of the members? Yeah. Okay, thank you. We then go on to the next issue, which is the Mariah Mitchell Association Conservation of the Historic Vestal Street Observatory and Astronomical Study. Jason?
Jason, hello. I know most of you. I'm Jason Leonardo Finger, and I'm the MMA's Deputy Director, and I'm also the Curator of the Mitchell House Archives and Special Collections, and also the Facilities Director. I'm hoping that Joanna Roach, our Executive Director, will be able to join us, but she had a previous appointment right before this. So I'd like to start off by thanking you for your continued support of the Mariah Mitchell Association. We have been applying for funding from the Community Preservation Committee going back to close to its beginnings in around 2004, 2005. You have allowed us to do a tremendous amount of conservation and preservation work here at the Mitchell House, where I'm speaking to you from, and also for the exterior of our library that is now our research center, and then more recently, the exterior of our historic Vestal Street Observatory, which was built in 1908, and it has a 1922 addition. That was, I believe, fiscal year 2021 that you awarded us funding to cover that. We struggled through the pandemic and supply chain issues, among things like that. But I am happy to report that we are pretty much wrapped up with the exterior. There are a few more minor things to cover, including the landscape around it and the kind of final bits of drainage, but the bulk of the exterior conservation has been completed. And now, because the building is weather tight, we are moving to the interior of the building. So we are asking for a total of $167,060 to cover the interior work, and that will include work to the historic plaster and painting of the historic plaster. As you've probably seen in the photographs, we have a wonderful woodwork system in the 1922 edition that is original. In some cases, some of the wood is made out of cypress, and it has all of its original varnish work on it. But since it's 100 years old, that varnish work needs a little help. So that will be attended to as well. We want to restore the floor. The original floor is there. It's just covered over with a delightful blue carpeting that needs to go away, as well as linoleum tiles circa 1940. And then we also need to address the inside, the pillar room and the dome, and that concerns some coatings with mineral paint of the brickwork that is in there, and then also attending to the concrete floors that are in both the pillar room, in the dome room, which is where the telescope is, and then in the basement of the astronomical study. And then we'd like to cap it off, and a part of our request is funding for an HVAC system, which will not only protect the historic fabric of the building, but that will also protect the papers that go back to the original start of the observatory in 1908. So there are documents and journals and data that we have collected all over those years. And I think that kind of sums up what we'd like to do.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Tim?
Thank you for that presentation. What a great facility to have in our community. I don't have any specific questions about the project, but I would like to ask you, in the event we couldn't fund all of the pieces of your application, could you potentially put a priority on the different aspects in the event we didn't have the full funding available?
That's difficult because one kind of rolls into the other. I think that the varnish work, the two storms that are in part of the application that I did not mention, the permanent storms on the front, any of the paint work, varnish work, and concrete work all needs to happen. I think things associated maybe with the flooring, we might be able to find funding somewhere else. I will say that there is a seminar room that we added on in 1987. It's the little shingled portion to the left side of the building, and that is not obviously historic. But with your prior funding for the exterior, we were actually able to secure work to do all of that interior work because we're going to be doing work over there as well. And I had gotten a grant several years ago that did the exterior of that building. So ideally, we'd hope that you'd be able to fund all of it, but I think probably it's the concrete and the paint and the plaster and the varnish that all needs to kind of be attended to at the same time.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have my hand up, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if you can see it on your screen.
I see it now, Linda.
Okay.
Please. go.
They've been very good stewards of this whole large complex. For those who are new to the board, we've been working with Mariah Mitchell for almost since the beginning, because we did the exterior, we
Since
did the
1904,
stucco.
fiscal year '04.
Yeah, and so that's 20 years almost. We've been working with them, actually 20 years, given the FY4. And we've done the exteriors, as Jason said, we've done the stucco, we've done the interior of the Mariah Mitchell house because we had to redo the moon paintings. Is that what they're called? I was in there this summer. I took family members in there who'd never been in there this summer, and it was spectacular. They've done a very good job of being stewards of this project, and I have been in the observatory, and it has needed a lot of help on the inside. We've done the outside, but it needed a lot of help on the inside. And I'm not sure, having been in there and all the way up, crammed myself up into the observatory part, I'm not sure you can split it up. But that's just my opinion, having been in there. But if anybody's never been in there, you really need to go in there, the house and the observatory. But it's an interesting project, and we've been, as I said, we've been working with it all along, and we tend to keep going with projects as they spread them out over years. So I'm appreciative of this application.
If I might, everyone, Joanna Roach, our executive director, has just joined us, and Joanna and I are more than happy to give you a tour of the inside of the observatory so you can see. Photographs don't do it justice, especially my photographic ability, and also the Mitchell house as well, if you would like to see the work that we've done.
I don't see any hands being raised. Sorry, Neville.
I don't have anything to add. I want to thank you for coming to us again. I just wanted to say something, get very personal, and say hello to JCN. And how is my boy doing? Never.
He's very well. 4th grade, 9 years old, and almost as tall as me.
Okay, congratulations.
We have to get you together.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions relative to this particular application at this time? Seeing no hands raised, I wanted to thank you very much for the presentation, and we'll be able to get back to you after you've had a chance to consider all the applications and make a determination as to what we're going to be able to fund.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay, next is the Athenaeum, the issue with respect to the restoration of the historic ship models collection.
And if I could just jump in real quick here, the person that was speaking on Anne's behalf, Anne Proctor, is that correct?
Glenna, we can't hear you.
I can't hear you
all.
at all.
Not at
Yeah.
all.
Good. Hang on a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, the person that is speaking on behalf of Ann Scott, the executive director for the Athenaeum, is Lincoln. And because we're moving so rapidly, he's not here yet. So just bear with us. I'll see if I can get him and have him join in now.
I did see Alan Reinhardt. Maybe he wants to do the cemetery.
Yeah, let's do that.
Just a future reference here on these agendas. If you put down the times and they're posted on the town website for specific times, we can't get away from those times. It might be better off if we don't put the times on our agenda that's posted and then you tell people when to show up. Because the fact that we put it on the posted agenda, we've got a problem. Because if people are dialing in at 9:40 and we've already whipped on by, that's a problem on the agenda and an open meeting law violation. So we might want to not put the times on the agenda and just you tell people privately when to show up.
Okay, noted, and will be adjusted. Alan?
Yes, hi, welcome, or thank you for allowing me to come into this. I'm here to speak to the Cemetery Commission, the Nantucket Cemetery Commission, and I think you've read our proposal. We have been working for the last number of years on a cemetery improvement project. Among the things that we've accomplished so far, you'll notice on each of the 9 town cemeteries, there's a boulder with the name of the cemetery on it. Those boulders replaced wooden signs that had a life expectancy of 3 to 5 years before they were, looked pretty decrepit. So that was one of the first things we did. Those stones were donated by the Nantucket Conservation Foundation from the sand pit out at Milestone Cranberry Bog. And Neil Patterson and company did the engraving and placing of those stones. That was all donated to the Cemetery Commission. We also have been working to restore the monuments in each of the 5 cemeteries there are a total of 9 cemeteries that the town controls. 5 of them have monuments in them in need of repair. There are a couple of other ones. For example, Founders Burial Ground has 3 monuments, but those are all in good shape. The newest one, of course, is the Women's Monument that sits opposite the Men's Monument that was established back in the 1880s, 81, 82, somewhere in there. The Quaker Cemetery and the Historic Colored Cemetery are next on our list to do. We are using our own funds. It took some time to figure out how to access those funds that on the lot sales that we've had up at Pulpa Cemetery. So we have received a approval from the town to use our own funds for those 2 cemeteries, the Historic Colored Cemetery behind the hospital and Quaker Cemetery. In all of these projects for the cemeteries, what we're doing is correcting the stones. A lot of the stones, or some of the stones, depending on the cemetery, have fallen over. Some of them have broken. There are pieces of the stones in the ground and so on. So we use a prior CPA grant that went back to Catherine Stover. That was back in 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And we used those funds to do a survey of all the town cemeteries, the condition of the monuments. And that was a very extensive report. The town does have a copy of that. And it listed, I forget how many altogether, there were over 600 monuments that were in need of repair. So we have used that early grant funds for the overall survey and also for the improvement of stones at Old North Cemetery. That was the first cemetery that we got a bid for. We have straightened up the stones in there. We still want to go in and use the D2 biologic. It's to clean the stones, particularly the ones that are out of either marble or white granite or whatever, to clean those stones. So what we are requesting is $150,000 to go back, or not to go back, but to go to the cemeteries that remain. Old North was done. New North needs to be done. That's one of the largest cemeteries. There are quite a few monuments in there that need restoration. And Newtown Cemetery is the other. Those are the two of the larger cemeteries, and that's what we are applying. If approved, this $150,000 grant for. We will upright the stones. We'll repair as much as we can the stones that are repairable. We will go through and clean the stones as well. The whole idea of this cemetery restoration project, which goes back to that original grant that we got back in the early 2000s, is to have all of the 9 town cemeteries be presentable, not just presentable, but to be an accurate reflection, let's put it that way, of how the town regards the historic importance of these cemeteries. There are 2 private cemeteries, of course, Prospect Hill and the various portions of that, and of course, St. Mary's. Those are both private. They have their own boards and decision-making process and so on. So that's the project here before us, is the restoration of Newtown and Old and New North Cemetery. Those are the 2 big cemeteries, and we want to go through and have all those monuments straightened up. Do you have any questions?
Questions from commissioners? Linda? Linda, you've raised your hand?
Yeah, but I think Mark beat me. I'll wait till after Mark.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Well, thank you. Alan, these are town-owned cemeteries, I understand. Why wouldn't it be the town's responsibility? We deal primarily with not-for-profits, and the town, I know, is not a profit-making organization, but it's sort of in a gray area. But why wouldn't this be the town's responsibility?
Good question. When I was on the select board, this goes back to 2005 to 2007. I, among other things, learned that the select board was not only the select board, but there were 7 different commissions that we served on. One of them was the Cemetery Commission, and I was amazed. I said, well, who's in charge? And they said, well, there's nobody really in charge of the cemetery. Ricky Lewis, of course, to his credit, did handle most of the transactions back then. We have hand-drawn maps and trying to locate some of the burial spaces and so on. So basically, the answer to your question is that the town cemeteries had been neglected for a number of years in terms of putting any money into repairing and so on. With the establishment of the Cemetery Commission, and this goes back to 2006, when we were finally approved at town meeting, approved by the state, and created as a cemetery commission. And I've been chair of the Cemetery Commission since that time. We have taken a look at each of the 9 cemeteries. I had the full commission into each of the cemeteries. We made lists of what needed to be done as far as improvements. We have received volunteer donations, let's say, the ones I itemized earlier from Neil Patterson, the stones that he engraved, the Conservation Foundation, and so on. So we've sort of been on a wing and a prayer without any real funding. So anyway, that's the sort of long answer to why we are applying to the CPA for this grant that we figure is of value to will improve the historic significance of the town.
Linda, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, just for new members, we have worked cooperatively with the town since the beginning, now over 20 years. We've
Right.
done multiple projects with the town on specifically historic renovation. The flagpole in Sconset, I can't even name them all. So this is not an unusual request for historic preservation, not maintenance, but historic preservation, to work with the town like every other town in the state does, because I've researched every other town with the CPC for some reason. And this cemetery issues, we've been working with them for many, many years on the various aspects of the cemetery. I just wanted to point out to Alan that when I was going over the stuff with Brian Turbot yesterday at the chairman's request, the cemetery still has money it was my project, and still has money from years past that I'll get the exact figure to Alan at some point, but there still is money in an account from a previous grant for work at the cemetery. So I'll get you that amount. I thought it was around 25 grand, but I'll let you know and what it was for. But you still have money sitting there that you can use. It sort of fell into inactivity because of Catherine's premature passing away. And because I've been working with her before she passed away. So now we're going to pick up the mantle again. And I know Charlie out at the Parks and Rec is all into fixing a lot of this stuff for the town as well. So I think they're going to be moving forward now where it hasn't been some inactivity for a while.
Right. Just to expand, I'm sorry. Just to expand on that point, we have, as I say, after meeting with Brian Turbot, we have a number of different accounts, but that money is very difficult to access. People who donated to different.
I'm on a Zoom meeting. Go ahead. Okay, I'll call you back.
Okay. So anyway, we have been using our own funds, particularly on the next 2 projects that we've already contracted for. Those will be coming out of our the proceeds of the lot sales that we've had at Pulpa Cemetery. And we're using that extra, I believe it's around $25,000, as Linda said, to finish this project out, to get these monuments in all the cemeteries fixed.
Kathy, you had raised your hand.
Yes, I just want to say that back in 2011, for a town clerk restoration, we're calling it, we have 28,767.57. I'm not clear that what that was for. I thought a lot of that was for record restoration, but we'd have to research that. I just wanted to jump in with that amount.
I think it was for headstone, headstone and fences were one of them.
Okay.
Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Mr. Reinhardt, I live across from one of the cemeteries and I am in there daily. And I have to say, it is surprising how many people are there. I met on Sunday a woman from San Francisco, her relation to the Hussey family, and she was trying to locate them. So using the map and everything, pointing out Mariah Mitchell. And my point is, you'd be surprised how many people come to Nantucket and then will go see a family member and then walk around and, you know, like saw the Reyes family. On my dad's birthday, we go and have ice cream with my brother. We go having a cocktail. So there are a lot of people, the Sales family do this as well, but this is really a treasure that we need to take care of and restore as soon as possible. I know you guys are doing some work, but I think if any way to accelerate this, I've seen some headstones, sadly falling down or broken or whatever, but anything we can kind of repair and bring things back would be a really smart thing for the town, because it, believe it or not, it is a tourist destination, the cemeteries on Nantucket, which is kind of wise, or it's kind of funny to say that, but in being there all the time, someone asking like, do you know where this family is or whatever. So it's a worthy cause. So thank you.
Lincoln, you had raised your hand. No, I'm sorry, it's Linda. Sorry, Linda.
I got to second what Joe said, because I'm a member of a lot of these ancestry things, because I do this for people on my side, and I get constant requests for people to go look for something in the cemetery, go take a tracing, take a picture, post it, because I'm very active on that one site. And I have 5 members of my family buried up there from 150, 200 years ago, and I can barely read them. But it really is a treasure. And as I say, we've been working with the cemetery committee for a long, long time.
Neville, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I would first like to say this is an excellent project. I support it a lot. I would like to ask though, I know that when Catherine had gotten that funding, it was for town records and wherever the records took us. I would just be curious to know, like, first, how much is in there, and can we use that funds for the cemetery, or would we have to get a request from the town clerk's office to use that funds for the cemetery commission, since it's 2 different entities? Thank you.
Linda, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, they were both my projects. The town clerk's fund, we can't switch in between funding because they're already allocated funds. The town clerk's funds were for the Browns River restoration of all of her records. And she pretty much has zeroed that out, but there is still some money, which I have to let Nancy know about, to finish some of that restoration, because they haven't done all the Browns River restoration. The last thing we did was buy shelves for the storage of the preserved records. So I've told Nancy this before, but then the pandemic had in. So that money was specifically for the restoration of the records, and they haven't completed it. So the other money is the 25 grand plus is for specifically for the cemetery, and they were 2 separate grants for 2 separate things. So one was town clerk and one was the cemetery guys.
Indeed, if I just might add, as far as the cemeteries themselves, I'm into each of the 9 cemeteries at least once a month. And you probably noticed over the last several years that the condition of the cemeteries, the fences, the mowing of the cemeteries has definitely improved. Let's put it that way. Now, the town has, as far as their contribution, the town does the maintenance. They subcontract it out, and but again, that's one of the things the Cemetery Commission has really stepped up, is the care, the general maintenance of the cemeteries. And that's why we feel that the restoration of these monuments is sort of the next step in really getting the cemeteries up to where they should be.
Is there any further discussion with respect to this part of the agenda? Seeing no hands raised, I then want to go back to Alan. I just want to thank you for the presentation, and I want to move back now to
Athenaeum.
I'm sorry. I really thank you for the presentation. We will get back to you after the committee has had a chance to make a determination as to what it can and what it cannot fund.
Great. Well, thank you for the time. It's great to, to be able to tell the story about the cemeteries to people who are interested. So anyway, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Lincoln, I think we're ready for you to talk to us now, if that's okay, with respect to the Athenaeum, the restoration of the historic ship models collection.
Yes. You can all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Yes, the Athenaeum is seeking funding for the cleaning, repair and restoration, and then protection of ship models that reside within the collection of the Athenaeum. These ship models had been donated over the years or purchased. In some cases, some of the larger models had cases on them and they were a little bit more protected. But many of the models were sort of freestanding outside of a glass case or outside of any protection. And for many years, they sat out on various shelves and on top of bookcases, exposed to the elements of the Athenaeum as it was 100 years ago, as well as what it was just 20 years ago. Many of the models, have collected dust, and through probably exploration by young fingers, have been damaged in small ways. Very luckily, none of the models are truly damaged in any great fashion, but rigging and small elements of the models over the years have been damaged. And so the current models look a little bit frail. So we undertook an assessment this past spring to have the models looked at by an expert, that's Mark Sutherland, who has worked on model ships for the NHA and for various people. He also has a shop that sells this particular type of maritime memorabilia of ship models. He also works with ivory and many other artifacts in that regard. So what we're undertaking, we're asking for $12,000 to clean, repair, and then encase or protect in cases the models that are currently outside of a case. We had Mark earlier this spring do an evaluation, and he came up with estimates for what it would take to clean and repair, and also estimates for the creation of cases for those that did not have cases. Since we are a maritime community and a place of learning, we'd very much love to be able to display these models that would allow closer inspection, and because of the cases would allow them to be looked at more safely. So our proposal is, if funded, we have a plan for how they would be cleaned and repaired, and how Mark would move the models to and from the library as well. And so that is all included in the $12,000 we're seeking. I'm not sure if there's any questions or if you need any more information from me, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Linda Williams has raised her hand.
I'm sure with Joe and maybe Mark and Tim, my little fingers were the ones that were also, when I was young, on the boats. They are magnificent. They are fascinating, especially for kids at eye level. I was surprised it's taken this long because we've done other stuff for you guys. We've done preservation of some of the paintings and whatnot. And they were spectacularly beautiful now. You couldn't even see them before, they were so dark. But I'm very glad to have you come in and have these done because it's been, I think, overdue. And they'll
Yes.
dust them off. Thank you for coming.
Yep.
Any questions from any of the other commissioners? Tim?
Not so much a question, Mr. Chair, but I just wanted to also echo the thanks for coming in. And this is, in my opinion, this is also a wonderful use of CPC money to preserve these treasures for future generations. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Neville?
I just want to get your name again, please.
My name is Lincoln Thurber. I am the head reference librarian for the Nantucket Athenaeum. I also oversee the archives of the Athenaeum.
Thank you.
Are there any further or other questions from any of the commissioners? Not seeing any hands. I want to thank you very much for coming in. We will take your application and your remarks under consideration, and we'll get back to you after we've made a determination as to what we were able to fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the last applicant is Ann Doherty from Remain. She will be joining us momentarily.
Just as an aside, everybody, so you can sort of think about this when we start allocating funds. Brian Turbott's going to get back to me with hard numbers, but we went over a lot of it yesterday, over an hour, and we are in really, really good shape. I know everybody just got that notice from the Boston that it's been a tough year for the CPAs and CPCs around the state, and that I believe they're cutting back their percentages. But because the real estate market has fallen off around the state, it did not fall off here. So, and then they have somebody in the office there at the finance department who's gone after all of the people that are delinquent on their taxes. So every time they get a tax lien thing solved, we get more money. So to give you an example, last year, I think we budgeted for 15,000 in interest. We ended up getting 153,000. So there's all kinds of extra funds coming in that he's trying to nail down. He'll get the dispensation from the state in November, so we won't have hard numbers until November. But apparently there's still quite a lot of money out there that from projects that are complete that we need to go after. For new people, every year we put in a separate warrant article for money that hasn't been used and doesn't need to be used because they've finished the projects, and we go after and we have a separate warrant article that puts that money back into those line items that we gave the money from in the first place. So there's a lot of positives coming for Nantucket, whereas a lot of the other parts of the state are not that positive in their cash flow.
Thank you, Linda.
We're still waiting for Ann Doherty. But if I could just add to what Linda said, Kathy and I will review the open projects. And what we typically do is anyone who has a low balance or a balance that's been sitting for some time, we'll reach out to them with a letter asking them if they were going to use the funds or if they're going to return the funds back to that particular party.
Also, I want to add, unlike other years in the past, we sometimes will have reserved funds in each one of the three elements. And we can use that money the following year. There is basically nothing left in open space rec, affordable housing or historic preservation. So there's nothing to rely on from past years. I think we have $9 in historic preservation. So everything's coming in. It's going to be new funds.
Yeah, we have been very, very diligent in terms of allocating this money appropriately at the appropriate time. Ann Dougherty has just joined us. And if you want to talk to us about the Remain LLC on behalf of the Folger Block Condominium Trust.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for your time. We have Remain has 19% of the condo complex, which is 58 Main Street. I'm sure you know the building right prominently on the corner along Main and Orange. It's a beautiful building. It's got some historic value in the community, I believe, just given its location. But it needs a lot of work. And it was actually suggested to us by our property managers that he said there's this thing called the CPC, and you might want to learn a bit about that. And Ken nicely came into our offices and gave us some advice. And so we decided to sort of take a baby step initially with you all and the CPC and ask for funding to have the whole envelope of the building analyzed, and have them recommend to us how we would start to restore the facade of the building, everything from chimneys to the beautiful woodwork around the cornice of the building. There's quite a bit of sandstone around the windows, and as you come into the main door of the building on Main Street, that needs a lot of attention. So I hope in the scheme of things, it was a pretty reasonable ask of $11,000 to cover the time and the expertise to have a professional historic preservationist come in over the course of 2 days, analyze the envelope of the building, and make those recommendations on how to proceed from there.
Are there questions? Linda, you've raised your hand.
Again, this is for mostly, how are you? This is for
Good.
mostly new members, because this has come up in the past when we were looking at Mariner House over on the corner of India Street and Center Street. The act does allow us to consider projects in the public domain, which is an historic structure that people walk by, that has a significance. We have another request from St. Mary's for the same thing up the street. Historic significance, they walk by it. In this case, the public goes in and out of the building. But it is a prominent building on Main Street. I did some research on this building a while back, and it does have a very unique history and it's the only building on Nantucket like it, actually. And so we can consider projects like this, even though it's not a museum, it's not something else. It is an historic resource, very prominently displayed, and does impact the public. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's an odd request compared to other requests.
Neville?
Yes, I just want to ask a question. Now, the monies that you're asking for is just so an expert can come by and come and look at it and tell you what you need to do. Once that takes place, is it within your scope that you may come back to the CPC to seek funds to proceed with this?
Yes, we would like to. We would like to make a follow-on request based on his or her recommendations.
Okay, and that said, I'm still, and that said, I just want to follow up. Would the other tenants that you have in that building, will they be contributing at all in any way? I mean, going forward, after the research is done, going forward to complete the project, would they be contributing in any way towards the project?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Jen King, who works at Remain, is the treasurer for the Folger condo block.
Mhm.
And anytime we have an expense, it's divided evenly amongst all 6 units.
Okay.
Murray's is part of the condo complex, the 2 retail stores down on the corner, and Robert Young, who owns the jewelry store around the corner on Orange Street. So yes, every time a common charge bill comes in, it's divided based on ownership. And Jen, I think we might pay things up front and then collect, or sometimes we collect and then pay. I'm not sure exactly, but I can come back to you on that. I've notified all the other condo owners that we wanted, before we put the application in, I notified them all about what it was that the CPC does and what you all consider, and what our plan was, and what was involved in putting the proposal together. And there were no objections to the effort. They all appreciate how beautiful the building is.
Thank you very, very much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Are there any questions from any of the other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Joe?
Thank you. And I worked 3 years in 58 Main, and it was a great office space. It was just a magnificent building. The stairway is incredible. I don't know how many times I've tried to recreate that stairway as you go in. There's no goosenecks or anything that floating, but it's a beautiful building, and I love seeing the image of the wrought iron gating above the doorway in the portico, and a lot of that is still missing, and would like to have that brought back. So I really like this project, and thank you for bringing it forward.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lovely place to work. My husband is always saying to me, he said, "You can work from home. Why are you going into the office?" I said, "I'll see you later."
It was magical to have lunch over the front doorway in the second story window and watch the pass, and it is beautiful. It's incredible. So, and then if you go in the back, you're able to see the town clock. So it really is a beautiful space, and I'm glad that this is happening. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and I know the other owners do as well. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from any of the other commissioners?
Oh, here's Cecil.
Mark, you got your hand up?
I guess I have a question for the other commissioners. This not being a 501c3, and it's a historic building for sure. And the island's full of historic buildings, and I wanted to sort of set the stage for the next applicant for another historic building, exterior preservation, which is worthy in many ways. But are we going to be getting into the realm of restoring what is essence a private building? I think it's a question for us all to sort of recognize. I think this is a fabulous building, and it's a good project. I wish it were a nonprofit. So you can help me with that, because I think I'm all for restoring these things. Don't get me wrong. I just want us to be aware that we're opening a door for other private landowners, and maybe they're all on Main Street, which is full of historic buildings. But there's some that are outside of Main Street that are wonderful. So help me here if you can.
Linda first, and then Neville.
Mark, we wrestled with this with the Mariner House, which was in a different situation. It was not publicly accessed for any reason, period. and it wasn't as unique. It's a unique structure, but not as unique. And Main Street, we have to take them individually because you can't just pick off a building, a residential building on India Street, let's say. But there are historic resources that are significantly different than other ones. And the Act does allow us to take that into consideration. It doesn't have to be a 501c3 necessarily. It's an historic resource on Main Street. That's a building of a unique design because there literally is not another building on Nantucket like that is so prominently displayed on historic Main Street. So there are different categories. The one that you're referring to that's going to be coming up is one of the only Queen Anne's on Nantucket. So there are different categories of historic significance. So this building is ruled historically significant because of the design of the building, the location of the building, et cetera, et cetera. But the public does actually go in this building, which is unlike a lot of the other buildings. So those things are individually considered when we look at these. So it may not open the floodgates for somebody's private house on India Street or Pine Street or Fair Street, but it's the design of the structure, the location of the structure, that can be taken all into consideration to separate it from somebody's private home. I understand your concern because we had the same concern with the Mariner House.
Mark? Neville?
Yes, I agree with what Linda said. Here I'm going to add some things to it. In terms of the priorities that we were looking at when we were considering the Mariner House was one, public access. And I think they came back with a thing like, yes, they can do tours once in a while. But one of the main reasons why we didn't continue with the Mariner House was, that's why I asked the questions, was that none of their tenants were willing to contribute to the repair, to fund the project. They were totally against it, as a matter of fact. And it came down to that. But going on with what Linda said, I personally felt in terms of historic preservation and the CPC, one of the main things that the CPC states is like, it has, if it's inside of a building or if it's outside of a building, is that the public has access to it to see the historic nature of the building. So whoever it is can share that knowledge with the public, in receiving CPC funds. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Tom?
Yeah, just looking up Mark, it was a really, really good question, something that was on my mind as well. So I appreciate you pointing that out. I just looked up the CPC Enabling Act, and the definition of historic resource is twofold. One, the historic resource must be listed on the Massachusetts State Register of Historic Places, or two, it must be determined by the local historical commission that the historic resource is locally significant. So I'm assuming that one or both of those is true for this property.
We will make sure that is the case, if we decide to proceed.
Yeah.
Neville, is your hand up?
No, I was going to say something, but I didn't want to get into the weeds on this. There's another building. There is the old fire station, as a matter of fact, that we were trying to see. Trying to see if they can get funding from the CPC, but it was not designated as a historic building, or the town building, for instance. And in doing that type of research that we did, we found out the local authorities could have designated it as a historic building, even the town building, even though it was built in the 60s, I believe. And that therefore will be open to historic resources, as well as the old fire station that the sheriff is in now. Just to fill you in with that.
Just to elaborate on what Neville said, the entire island is an historic district. It's recognized by the state and the federal government. We are now a CLG also, which is a certified, I forget the rest of it, but it's certified historic resource, the whole island. So we do have areas of historic significance, which is downtown and the village of Sconset. So we are in a unique position because we're one of the only places in the country where the entire town the whole island is an historic district. Usually in other towns, we have tiny little areas that are historic significance. So we didn't have, the Devil's right. And I think Mark said, somebody said it, that we're covered, or Tom did, we're covered on that point. Plus the building itself has been designated by his significantly contributing.
Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree what Linda just said, and I think the other point is if the Preservation Institute has gone through the building and taken extensive measurements and drawings, I think that's a major focus. They did not just willy-nilly go around town. They were very specific in where and who they wanted, structures they wanted to measure. And so I think that this building falls under that category. So thank you.
Any further or other comments? Neville, is your hand up?
No, it's not.
Okay, that we have that, and we will then take this under consideration when we make a determination as to the allocation of the funds that we have and the projects relative to the request for that funding.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
And thank you very much for the research and for coming in. And we'll be back to you once we've had an opportunity to weigh the various requests that we have and make a determination as to our allocation of funding to those requests.
Wonderful. Again, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. At this point,
we could have done them all on one day at this rate.
Yeah. At this point in time, I think it would be appropriate for us to consider a motion to adjourn and then reschedule a meeting to make a determination as to the allocation of funds that we want to have, because the allocation was in fact not on the agenda.
We haven't heard them all, Mr. Chairman, but one note, in the past, we have put in a citizens warrant article, which means that we had to have all of this, buttoned up by the second week of November so we could put it in ourselves. But the select board has been putting it in last year, and they're going to put it in this year. So there isn't any real urgency of having to get this done in the next 2 weeks. We have a little bit more time to spread it out.
So we also have additional requests. There are, hang on, I think it's 11.
Yeah, so we don't have to get crazed on,
No,
oh my God,
yeah.
I got to meet tomorrow kind of
No,
thing.
there are 15 requests in total. And so what we'll do is we'll schedule the discussion of the rest of them on October 31st, which is the date of our next meeting.
And I think we have, don't we, Glenna, have 11, November 2nd is the next date after that, or something along those lines?
Hang on a second. I'll have her check just now.
Yes, that is correct. So we'll have the next set of applications on October 31st. And then the remaining will be on November 2nd. And then I would encourage everyone to look at their calendars now for the first and second round deliberations. And we would want to do that during the first week of November, if possible, so that we could have everything done in time for the citizens warrant that Linda mentioned.
We don't need that. We're not doing a citizens warrant article. That's what I just said. We don't need to compress ourselves so everybody has to get frantic about coming to a meeting within a certain period of time. Number two, I don't know if I'm going to have those figures until the state sends down to Brian what the allocation is, and that's usually not until maybe the end of the second week of November.
Yeah,
I'm in touch with them.
That's the correct.
That's my recollection of the correct time frame.
Okay, I will follow up with administration because I received some different information.
Tim.
I don't think we need to resolve that today. Why don't we just go ahead and schedule the remaining interviews, and we can update down the road as we proceed. We'll all get back to you.
I see a thumbs up from fair number of people. Is everyone comfortable with that?
I just,
Yeah, I see thumbs up. I see thumbs up, from all the commissioners. Okay, that's what we'll do as the next step.
Mr. Chairman, I can hardly make out what you're saying.
What I tried to say was that what we're going to do is, we will, schedule, meetings to be able to get stuff in place so that we can move forward, with a reasonable time frame.
Okay.
Neville, your
Yes,
hand.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a suggestion for our next meeting. We have at least 3 candidates, 3 projects that we funded before. And I think that's why this went by so quickly, because we had projects that have a history with us. So if we can just ask the people all to come in at the same time, because we probably be going through it just as quickly. This is a suggestion.
I think that's a great suggestion.
With respect to the other commissioners on that, because
I think it's a
with
great
respect
suggestion.
to existing projects, it's just a short update to make us aware of where they are based
Right.
on what we've done before.
Great
So that's-
suggestion.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Linda?
That's a great suggestion. I said the same thing to I said that last week as well. So I think that's a great suggestion because we know the new guys would probably need a little bit of a rundown, but in general, most of us are familiar with these projects.
Mark, you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, I just support the idea. I think it's a fabulous idea. Tell them all that they're scheduled for 9 a.m. and maybe give them the order of events so they can sort of figure out if they're going to be up at nearer 10 versus 9. But tell them all 9 o'clock, because last year we had a long delay waiting because we had we roared through applicants that were easy ones, and then we had a long delay waiting for another easy one, but they were just not scheduled until I think it was 10:15 or something. So we had to hang around. So I think having everyone scheduled for 9 o'clock makes a lot of sense.
That's an
Yeah, we went all the way to noon last year and we had coffee breaks in between.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good suggestion. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
I don't see any negatives. Anything else we need to do?
I like your thumbs up, Tom.
Yeah.
Pretty high tech.
All right, if nothing else, at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Mark,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Neville,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and Kathy. Right.
There.
Good job,
Okay.
Ken.
We all set?
Yep.
All right, we'll be back to you as soon as we get, on October 31st.
See you all on Halloween. Come dressed for the occasion.
Okay. Anybody got a broom?
I have my broom always by my side.
All right, thanks a lot.